Hello, this is Your World Discovered on E.P.N. My name is David Ewen, and we'll be talking with our author today. Her name is Kyrja, and you can see her books under her name, which is Kyrja. I introduce to you Kyrja, who enjoys writing a variety of stories within the fantasy genre, including the recently completed Sea God of the Sands novel, first Shard of Light, which is the first title in the Shards of Light series, and several titles in the Gatekeeper's Choice series. She has also penned The Monster Got Mom, along with a growing series of children's books released by Schiffer Publishing, entitled Ruperts Tales. Let's welcome Kyrja to the program.
Yay! Hello, David.
Yay! I like that. Is probably the best introduction I've ever had. I like that.
Well, usually when I do an interview, I actually sing first thing. So it's up to you whether I do or not.
Let's hear just a little bit, and then we'll talk about your writing.
Okay, here you go. So it's from our friends of Rupert. Okay, I'm a friend of Rupert. Sing it loud and clear. If you're a friend of Rupert, then give a great big cheer. Yay! This is the part where you say yay!
Yay! Now I know where the yay came from, and
you know.
that actually you have that growing series of children's books we were just talking about that was released by Schiffer Publishing, entitled Ruperts Tales. Why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about that?
Okay, great. I'd love to. Thank you, David. Well, we currently have 6 hardcovers and 1 activity book published through Schiffer Publishing. These books are written specifically for pagan children to help them learn about paganism in general. One of the most important things you'll find throughout all of Rupert's Tales is that everything can be and is done in many different ways, and that all knowledge is worth having. The first 2 books cover our 8 seasonal holidays throughout the Wheel of the Year. The third book is Rupert Helps Clean Up, which teaches about reducing, reusing, and recycling, and includes a whole host of new friends, including Freyan the Frog, Cherie the Snail, Daphne the Duck, and a whole cloud of dragonflies, along with several other new friends too. Our 4th book is a book of bedtime stories, which is much more than a cute book of stories to read at bedtime. When I first started writing this one, I asked several people on online groups I belong to tell me why kids had trouble sleeping. And the most resounding answer, hands down, was that kids didn't want to miss anything. Who does, okay? So you find Brody the Bat, who stays awake all night, and Rupert the Rabbit, who stays awake all day, finding out just how much alike they are. And then there's a lot of mythological creatures in this book too, including a dragon, a unicorn, a Pegasus, and a guardian of dreams. But you'll have to read the story to find out about him. Our 5th book is one of 2 magic books, both of which came out this year, 2016. Magic, I'll have you know, real magic is about believing in yourself. And if you can do that, then you can do anything. So both the learning magic and making more magic books are about using your imagination and intention to create what you want. You'll also learn about altars, all kinds of magical tools, about the maiden, mother, and crone. And then, of course, we also have the Wheel of the Year activity book, which gives you some of the pages from the first 2 books, the Wheel of the Year books, to color, along with a few puzzles and a song or 2. I don't remember whether Friends of Rupert is in that one or not, but I think so. Tanya Bennington Osborne has illustrated all of these books, and we have just finished uploading our 2nd activity book for Friends of Rupert. This one is free and can be found on our Friends of Rupert website. It is absolutely free. There's like 26 coloring pages, and I think there's like 9 or 10 puzzles. I don't remember. But I just finished doing that like 2 days ago, and it's absolutely free for any and everyone to upload. We do ask that those who are able to, please donate any amount whatsoever, whether it's 50 cents or $50 to Autism Pensacola. And that is so that these kids can get iPads, because most autistic kids live in a world of silence, and the iPads are one way which they can actually come into the world around them. So one last thing about Rupert's Tales is that we are also in the process of creating our seventh hardcover, which is called The Nature of Elements. We added an additional artist to Team Rupert, yay, for this book. Leslie Pringle Burke is our new artist. And if you know anything at all about the natural elements of our world, then you can probably guess that there'll be 4 stories in this book in which Rupert learns about air, fire, water, and earth. We are hoping that it'll be released sometime around this time next year. There's Rupert's Tales for you, David.
Well, you've got a very interesting set of characters that you were describing earlier, but from your little bit of a discussion, you were talking a little bit about different activities and also the activity book. It looks like you're also teaching as well. Tell us a little bit about sort of the teaching methodology that you have in these books. And what age group are you reaching out to?
Well, what's interesting, David, is that, you have to pigeonhole everything, label things, whether you want to or not, so that people have an idea at least where to start, what idea, like you say, what age group, okay? Personally, those of us who are friends of Rupert and have read them, we understand that they are honestly good from cradle to grave, depending upon how you apply them. For example, a child who cannot read, these all rhyme, David, so they're a lot of fun to read out loud, okay? So little, babies who can't read, you start reading them, and pretty soon Rupert becomes a part of your world. And kindness is a very important thing, as in all of our teachings. I guess I've long been teaching my faith, regardless of what religion I was attached to. Okay, so but every story, every Rupert's Tales has a lesson, and in fact, the one that's not out yet, the one that's coming out next year, is called The Mystery of Lessons, and that was the hardest book for me to write because it doesn't have a warm fuzzy at the end, and it was interesting until I learned what the lesson was in that book, in that story. I couldn't finish it. So it was interesting. So, but these are our stories, when I say ours, I don't mean just pagans, but they are specifically written for pagans. Obviously, we're talking about Yule, and not Christmas. We're talking about Ostara, not Easter, those kinds of things. But there's no, it is this, not that. Because you have to understand that as pagans, we have, a whole umbrella worth of people that do things differently. And in no way, shape, or form does any of our teachings say anything about you must do it this way or you can't do it that way or anything like that. Because it's not just other faiths or those who don't have any religion in their lives. It is a lot of pagans are much different than each other. And so I can't very well say, well, all pagans do this. Now, can I? Because it's not true. So inclusiveness is the big thing with Rupert. Primarily, what I want to bring to our readers is acceptance. It's okay to worship, celebrate, and serve in the way that you feel resonates as truth within you, good truth and good within you. I specifically prefer not to use the term tolerance because that word to me denotes like a negative feeling towards whatever it is that you are tolerating. Acceptance is more like I do things this way, you do things that way, and we're cool, we're good, it's all right. It's also my hope that Rupert will help to teach people, both young and old, that this is what we pagans do to celebrate, okay? And a little bit of why. It's my intention to provide a starting point, not only for children, but those new to the path who might be teenagers, might be young adults, might be older people. I was 40 years old before I even knew what the word pagan meant, besides what Father Joe told me. So even though their books are also for those who may simply be curious.
So is it more of, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I could be wrong, is this book, based on what you were just describing just a moment ago, is this educational in the form of paganism? Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. It's entertainment with education. I don't know that it's necessarily the other way around, but you're definitely going to learn something along the way. You are.
What was it many years ago, or at the beginning of your writing stage? What made it got you to the point, I should say, I need to write? How did you know that was going to be your voice, if you will, by way of pen and paper?
Well, David, you know, when you tell people you have these voices in your head, sometimes you have problems. Okay, so, but as a writer, I've been a writer my whole life. I mean, since very, very young. You know, I'm one of those recipients in junior high school who got the Young Author Award and all those kinds of things. And I had a manual typewriter when I was 12 years old. Click, 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 click. Ching. Okay, you know, and so I've been writing my whole life, and so I have these voices, these scenes, these thoughts, and they coalesce and they argue with each other, and whoever gets loudest is whose story I write. Okay, so I had Rupert in my head, I'm telling you, just bang, 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 no, 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 no. Okay, I'm like, leave me alone, I'm not writing no children's story, okay? I was writing Star Trek, I was writing epic fantasies, okay? But I was working in the construction industry as a heavy equipment operator, and I was digging ditches for a living. And so you don't have your mind engaged so very much when you're doing manual labor. You know, and when you've got this kind of active mind and you're just doing mundane tasks day after day after day, pretty soon, well, it happened to me anyway. Okay, you know, Rupert came and kept saying, hey, you need to write the story, you need to write the story. And I'm like, leave me alone, I'm not writing kids' stories, leave me alone. And finally, it was one day where I was operating. It had rained. It didn't matter. It rained, and we couldn't work doing the things that we normally do because it was just, everything was clay, and you just couldn't. And after working for 2 hours, I turned to my foreman and I said, Dennis, I have to go home and I have to write, and I have to do it right now. And he knew that I was a pagan, that I'm a witch, that I'm a writer. And he said, go, I'll see you tomorrow. And I went home in my muddy boots and went straight to my computer, and I sat down, and I did not get up until I wrote the first story. And I cried because it was so amazing to me. It was Rupert's First Beltane is the first story that I wrote, and I could not imagine how we started here, other than it was April, and so Beltane is May 1st, and so that's, Rupert said, here it is. And so I thought that was it. I thought it was it. I had no idea there was anything more to come, nothing. But then the next Sabbath was coming, and Rupert's going, yo. I'm like, ah. So that's, honestly, that is how it started. Rupert would not leave me alone. He chose me to tell his stories.
Now, there is some other books that you've been doing. We've been talking about Ruperts Tales, but there is also Sea God of the Sands and also First Shard of Light. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Sea God of the Sands. Well, I just finished. Okay. A funny thing happened when I was writing the second book of Shards of Light series, because that came first. In fact, I started that a long time ago. And I started asking questions about how things happen in the storyline, because I don't write outlines. I don't do those. It's not how I write. It comes through me, through my hands, and I start writing and I find out what happens. So I started writing a short story to figure out what happens in book 2, because I had finished book 1, and that actually was naming day. I feel very often more like an archaeologist than anything else, because I'm uncovering different parts of the story and discovering what happens. So by the time I felt satisfied with the answers to what was going on in the story, because I was just writing there I go, see, I'm a writer. I discovered that book 1, Naming Day, is actually book 5. And so it became quite an interesting process. In the meantime, I had all these other ideas pop up, because that's another way I work, is that when I'm fully engaged in writing, full time, one thing very often, I mean always, leads to another. So once the creative process is engaged, it's next to impossible to stop the flow. There is no such thing as writer's block for me. It's like, can we get a plug to make them shut up for a while? Okay. So this year, I took the year off from a lot of my other activities. At least I did my very best to do so, in order to in order to concentrate on my writing instead of so many other projects. So I've just finished Loomis Rising, which is book 2 of the Firebird's Daughter series. The first book of Firebird's Daughter series was Sea God of the Sands. So, and I'm just about to start, probably in the next couple of days, on the 3rd book of that series, Gaia's Betrayal. I'm going to wait until the end of the third book, Gaia's Betrayal, to actually release any of these books, though, because because of what happened in First Shard, in the First Shard of Light series. I don't want to have to work around something in book 3, for example, when it could have been better addressed in book 1. So I will go back to the Shards of Light series at some point, though, because I'm really eager to see what happens and how it all works out. Okay, but these are epic fantasies, and they are very large. They have lots and lots of, well, people call them characters, but you know what, David, I can't call them characters, because to me, I know a whole lot more about them than I know about you and everyone else that are real people, because I'm inside of them and they're inside of me. And so instead of calling them characters, I call them people I write about, or PWAs. Okay, so I become very close to these people, these PWAs, and I need to know what happens. So we'll see. I'm looking very forward to finding out what does happen in the Shards of Light series, as well as in the in this next book, in Gaia's Betrayal for Firebird's Daughter series.
I'm very fascinated by the creativity that you have, because I speak to you as an author, and I see a different style of writing that says, I have no writer block, and I can't, and I've got so many ideas, and you've got series of books, not just a book, but multiple series going on. Let's talk a little bit about your audience, your reading audience. What are some of those people saying about what you've released thus far?
Okay, well, we're going to leave Ruperts Tales out of this for just a moment, because that, he's been around for a long time, and I've got lots of friends of Rupert. I don't say fans, and I'm not Rupert's mom. I'm a friend of Rupert, and so are they, okay? And so we're going to leave Rupert out of this conversation for just a moment. What I've done is, well, Gatekeeper's Choice series was the first series of books that I actually completed, and they're much shorter. There's 6 books. Only 4 of them have been published so far, but that's because they're self-published, and they are rather expensive to get in your hands, okay? So at any rate, I've had lots of comments, lots of reviews on my Gatekeeper's Choice series, and the thing that most often comes up is I think it's a funny thing to say. It's a modern, not fairy tale. What is the word they use? I guess it is. I guess that's the word, fairy tale. Only it's not a fairy tale at all. No, there's a different word they use. Anyway, it's all good stuff. Okay. But the Gatekeeper's Choice series is set in an ancient Asian culture. Okay, and so I learned a tremendous amount during my research of the Japanese culture. I at first did not even know if it was Japanese, Chinese, Vietnamese, something. I knew it was ancient Asia. And so as I began searching for the right answers to questions that I had about what was happening and those types of things, I discovered it was more Japanese than anything else, although with some, you know, poetic license, you know, some license thrown in there, because this series has a lot of gods and goddesses and demons. Oh my goodness, the Japanese culture has so many demons, it's not even funny. Okay, you know, I don't know why anyone would look forward to death. I got news for you. Okay, so at any rate, anyway, so but it's been fascinating for me. And I don't know if you've ever heard of the art form called kintsugi, but that's the, okay, so imagine your favorite cup or bowl, okay, or an heirloom of your family, okay, and now it's broken, okay, and so it's worthless, and you know, Aunt Martha that's handed it down for 17 generations or whatever would be appalled and, you know, rolling in her grave and all those kinds of things. Ah, what do we do? Okay, so what the Japanese do is that they, not for everything, of course, obviously, but this is predominantly a Japanese art form, is kintsugi, and they use gold to reseal it, okay? And it's a very specific art form. And so now this broken thing has a history. It has more value than it would have had if it wasn't broken. So that's what the Gatekeeper's Choice series is really all about, is discovering your value even when you're broken. So it's a sneaky kind of message in there. Okay, so but by the end of the 6 books that you read, you should feel pretty good about yourself, even though some really weird stuff has happened along the way. You know, so but again, that started with me search for beauty, and when these things just pop out at me, David. You know, I went to a festival and I saw this mermaid, this wooden mermaid that a friend of mine actually was selling, and I said, oh, I have to have that. I have to have that right now. Because I heard the story as soon as I saw her, and it had a red tail, and she had red wings, and she had this crown, and she had a mirror, and she had a comb in her hand. And I have a granddaughter, an adult granddaughter, who is always concerned about being pretty. And she is pretty, okay? But, you know, if we could spend less time concerning ourselves with what we look like, then we could spend more time doing some really cool stuff, okay, and learning who we really are inside. So that's what this started with, because it's called, the first book is called Me Search for Beauty, and actually Japanese word for beauty is me, so it's Beauty's Search for Beauty. Woo. So anyway, but it's a very simplistic, the first book is, but it gets much, much more complex as you go along, and so it really is empowering, you know, that there's more to you than just what's in a name, and what you know, and then beauty and those types of things. So it's been my pleasure, my privilege to be able to tell this story.
Well, not only are you have a lot of ideas that keep flowing out, and you've got the series of books coming out, but you also mentioned that you do a lot of research as well. So a lot of what you do is a lot of work, but from what we've talked about so far, and we've discussed at least 3 series of books that are going on, and then activity books and things like that. What other things do you enjoy doing? You do a lot of books, but do you have time for anything else?
Well, it's a good thing I do, you know, because I'm doing a lot of other things. Like, well, for instance, one thing I didn't even mention to you at all before is that I do teach the Elemental Witchcraft tradition, which is better known as the Elemental Journey. And it's a self-directed path that you learn, that you know, I give you things, tasks to do. But what it's really about, again, is self-empowerment, is finding out is there a theme here going on? Huh? Yeah. Okay. So, you know, it's about learning to give yourself permission to trust that what is good and truth for yourself is the right thing for you. You know, you don't have to worry about doing it right. You don't have to worry about doing it her way or his way, or he says, no, you can't do that. Well, yes, I can. Watch this, you know. So it's about giving yourself permission to be who you are. So that obviously is a theme throughout what I do. Also, we live in our house is called the Glitter Dome. I'm not quite sure how it developed from there. It really did organically, okay? But our house, inside and out, is painted with, we're big Disney fans, big Disney fans. So, like, I have Peter Pan on the ceiling that I painted. I have 8-foot Maleficent that I painted in the living room. I have Mickey Mouse right over there. You can't see him, but he's there, okay? And that's all on the inside. On the outside, it's just every color, and there's animals from Disney's Jammin' in the Jungle Parade that I painted on the side of the house, and we have water barrels all over, and a couple of them I painted as Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head, and we have gardens, excuse me, and, you know, we grow food, not lawn, and we share seeds. We have our seed and read free share library out here in our yard underneath our pecan tree. So we have 1,000 books. Most of them are in my library that have been donated to, are in my laundry room, which have been donated to me because I can only put a couple of dozen out at one time. So there's an adult, very tall library. It's a plastic, not chest, but shelving unit that has doors on it. Anyway, and then there's a shorter one for kids. So we have children's books and we have adult books out in our yard for free. Come and get them. You know, take one, bring one. There's no due date. Take it to the next person, whatever. And we also put seeds that we grow here in our seed and read library. We do things. Okay. We also do Ruperts Tales and Tunes performances at different festivals and different venues, different shops even, where we sing and we tell a story and we dress up in costume. And my husband Randy, who has long white hair and a mustache and beard, he colors his hair. And he turns the pages as I read. The pages are foam boards, you know, so that have been recreated, the pages of the book. And we blow bubbles and we sing songs, and it's very, very interactive. It's a lot of fun. And so, you know, we're busy.
Well, it looks like you've got a lot going on. I want to let you know that I had a good time talking with you today on Your World Discovered. I had a great time. I hope you did as well.
I did. Thank you. Thank you, David. I've really enjoyed it. Thanks for listening.
Oh, you're welcome, Kyrja. And if people wanted to find out more about your books or about what you do you have a website?
I do. Of course, the easiest place to find me is friendsofrupert.com, on Twitter, on our YouTube channel, Friends of Rupert channel, on Facebook. Wherever there is something, we're there. Friends of Rupert. That's the easiest place to find me. But see, there is another Kyrja that spells her name my way, who is really famous, but she's in Norway. So she does clothing. I do books. So pay attention to the pink hair.
Okay, so it's the pink hair, and it's the spelling of Kyrja is Kyrja. The J is silent. So it's Kyrja, and you can check out Kyrja on Friends of Rupert. Kyrja, thank you so much for joining me on Your World Discovered.
Thank you, David. Have a great day.
This is Your World Discovered. My name is David Ewen, and this is E.P.N.